When I was at Walmart, I saw this wooden round and thought it would be the perfect piece for a painting technique I've been wanting to do. To get the wooden piece ready, I'm going to start by painting the entire thing white. Now I want to start taping off my first set of lines. I'm going to use painter's tape to mark the lines and use the wood slats as my guide. I want to place my first piece of painter's tape right over the middle line. With that piece in place, I can put a piece on either side now and then remove the one in the middle. I'm going to use the thickness of the tape as my guide so that I don't have to measure and mark any of the lines off. I can now use the piece I removed and put it right under that bottom piece and use it as my next guide. I can add a piece below it, and once that's in place, I can remove that middle one again and keep using it as my spacer. I'm going to do this until I've covered the entire board. Now it's time to paint that first layer of stripes onto the board. I'm going to use a lavender color for this layer. I want to make sure and cover up all the white that's showing between the tape lines, and then I'll let it completely dry before moving on. Now that the paint's dry, I can remove all these tape lines. To make the second layer of stripes, I want to start by marking the middle of the wooden circle. The stripes are going to go across the first ones, so there's no slats this time to line that first piece of tape up to. Now I can place my first piece of tape right over the mark I made. I'm going to fill this board completely the same way I did for the first layer of stripes, using the tape thickness as my guide. With all of the tape laid down, I'm going to use the same lavender color I used for the first layer to paint all the spaces on this second layer. Now that the second layer of paint is dry, it's time for the final layer. I don't want to peel the tape off this time though. I want to lay a layer of tape right over top of it. I'm going to use the lines that I can see through my paint as my guide. I want to lay the tape down in the same places I had it on the very first layer. I can paint my final layer of paint now, and I'm going to use a dark plum color. Now that the paint's dry, I can begin to remove all of the pieces of tape. As I remove each piece, you can start to see the layers of white and lavender and plum, creating a beautiful gingham pattern. Since there were several layers of tape, there were a few little spots where the paint slipped under it. I can easily touch these up though with a small artist brush. To finish off my piece, I'm going to take some greenery and wrap the stems with some stringy purple beads. I can then attach the bunch right to the board and it's ready to hang. I really love how pretty the purple gingham pattern looks on the rustic board. It's the perfect backdrop for the greenery. I hope this has inspired you to try painting gingham as well.
Let's head over to Dollar Tree and we're going to grab a paper towel holder. Let's all run down to the hardware store and grab us a wood round. This wood round, we're going to turn it to the right side there, but we got to sand the edges. It feels nice and smooth on the top, but the edges get a little rough. Let's go ahead and put some 80 grit on there, and then we're going to switch over to 220 and get it all nice and even. These wood rounds are made with pine, which is considered a softwood, so we've got to condition the wood. We can use a pre-wood conditioner on this, and it looks a little wet. That's what we want. Go ahead and get that all done. Don't forget to get the edges. Let it dry about 30 minutes to an hour. Once it dries, it's time to put on some stain. Use the stain of your choice. I like to go dark every time, so I'm going to use a little bit of walnut that was sitting in my cabinet. I'm going to go ahead and stain this all the way using a towel and then take off any excess. Now, we're going to get 3 of those paper towel holders and we're going to set them in place. What we need to do is paint them. I like this hammered look from the spray paint that I got. I'm going to spray paint it little squirts at a time. That's what you want to do because we don't want it dripping down the metal. So if it takes 2 small coats, that's better than 1 thick coat. Once we get it all painted, let it dry. Now we got to curve the edges a little bit and bend them. Don't bend them too far, just get them a little 20 degrees and we're going to do all 3 at the same angle. Now we're going to put them in place on the bottom of our wood round. Put them in place, and I'm going to take these little electric hooks that I got out of the hardware store and I'm going to put 4 all the way around each side of these circles here. What that's going to do is I'm going to mark them with a pen, and once I got them marked, I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill. Now, just a little tap of the drill bit is all you need. We don't want to go all the way through. Once I got them done, I'm going to go ahead and put little tiny screws in and hold these clips in place. Once I get all 4 on each one of these done, it's really secure, but I'm going to go and measure at the 8 and 6 inch mark on these legs, and I'm going to put a little dab of hot glue, and then I'm going to take some twine. I'm going to set it there and let the hot glue set up It only takes about 15 seconds. Cut off the excess, and then I'm going to start wrapping it all the way around. Starting at that 6-inch mark, I'm going to work all the way up to the 8. But halfway up, let's put a little bit more glue on just to keep this string and hold it in place. I'm going to go ahead and put it right around there, let it set, let it hold, and then continue wrapping. Once I get to the end, it's just going to take a little bit more hot glue, put that on there, hold it in place, cut off the excess, then I'm going to switch over and just cut off all those little whiskers that are showing up. Once I get all that done, this thing's ready. I'm going to set it in place and I'm going to decorate it. It actually turned out really nice. Look at this. It just is awesome. And I made this all by myself from Home Depot and legs that I got that are paper towel holders from the Dollar Tree. I hope this encouraged you to build your own leg stand table. Let's head down to our local hardware store and grab a pre-made round tabletop. We're going to go ahead and lay this out and set a planter on top. That's going to be our base, but we need to draw a circle around the edge so we know where the lip of the planter goes. Next, we're going to grab some Jenga pieces from our local Dollar Tree. We're going to glue these down in order to keep our tabletop from sliding around. But first, we got to measure them out. Putting these on the edge and drawing a line allows us to put the pieces back far enough so that the tabletop fits snugly on top of the planter. Just a little bit of wood glue on the bottom and just lay those Jenga pieces right around the edge, all over, about 4 to 5 inches around. This is going to turn out great and it's going to dry just fine. Now it's time to bring it in and grab some wood stain. We're going to put this wood stain on going with the grain of the wood. Just use a foam brush and put it all over. Now I know it looks a little thick, but that's okay. Just wipe it on and get it all over. Don't go sparingly on it. We want to make sure it gets good coverage and soaks up. And definitely don't forget the edges. Once we got it on, it's time to get rid of the excess. Just wipe it with the grain of the wood, just like we applied it, and take off all of the excess that you can. Once you do get it wiped down, look at that color just shine right out. It looks great. Now it's some clear polyurethane. This goes on a milky white, but this is going to seal the wood and give it a great coverage. Next, it's time for 2-part epoxy and your favorite colors that you want to mix. The first part though is just mix the 2 parts of the epoxy together. You can just stir it around for about 2 to 3 minutes. But we also need some color. Using some acrylic paint, just mix it in. I'm going to use some turquoise on this one, some white on another, and keep some clear. First thing we do though, take that clear and go wavy about 2/3 the way up on the board. Just lay that clear stuff right out. Doesn't need to be perfect, but you're going to have some excess. So take that excess part and mix it all down with the stir stick. Next, it's time for turquoise. Let's just lay it out all over on the bottom part. This mixing goes a lot easier though. Because we have gloves and we're in a well-ventilated area, we're going to make sure that we rub it all over the board. It's okay if it touches the clear stuff because we're going to mix that in later. Pull these 2 together and let it spread out. It's going to self-level itself, so don't worry if it doesn't look great right in the beginning. Next, we're going to take some white right along the edge at the top of the clear epoxy. Just use a plastic spoon to lay it all out. Oops, see that little drip? As we always say, there's no mistakes, just a little happy accident. Next, grab your hair dryer and we're going to use low heat but high wind, and we're going to spread out that white epoxy straight onto the clear epoxy. Don't worry, it's going to look great. Now once you get it spread out, let's add some more white. We want to just keep doing this back and forth, spreading it out with the hair dryer. We want to take this white and just keep going all the way down past the clear onto the turquoise. This is going to give us just a wonderful beach sea looking scene. Just keep going with it. Now, once we get there, take the rest of your white that you got mixed up and just spread it all over. We're not so worried about having it so defined at the bottom like we did at the top. Once you get it on there, just keep spreading it. Don't worry if it drips over the edge. We actually want that. Now, once it dries for 24 hours, we're going to do the same process again with the clear epoxy, but we're not going all the way to the top this time. Just spread it out with your fingers, and it's time for turquoise again. We're just going to spread all this around. This one's a little darker this time because we want a second coat on top of the base. Again, just spread it all over with your hands, mixing it as you go. Let it mix with the clear epoxy and drip over the edge. Like we did yesterday, the day before, take that clear epoxy with the white and mix it right along with the edge. Look at that. Take the hair dryer and start spreading it out. But this time we're not going all the way to the bottom, because when it cures, you're going to see it through a mirror image and it's just going to look absolutely amazing. Just keep spreading out that white epoxy. Oh, it's just looking so amazing. Now it's time to make our table. Take that base and you can use it for storage for blankets in the living room. Go ahead and put your tabletop on and look at that. So shiny and so clean. And look at those waves, just so defined on your tabletop. I hope you love this project. It's so easy to do. I hope this inspired you to build your own easy DIY beach scene tabletop.